Remember, guys, I'm fair, but I'm firm. Touch him up. Good luck.
Who the fuck is
Larry Flowers?
I'm gonna trade this life for fortune and fame. I even cut my hair and change my name. Cause we all just wanna be big rock stars and live.
My boy Colin Thompson, we are back. I am Larry Flowers. This is the Fair But Firm podcast. Always great to be on with you, bud. What's happening, man?
It is great to be on with you. Running around, just moving and shaking. Had a great weekend. Derby was fun. Went out and had a couple drinks for the Derby. A little couple drinks after. Maybe a late night bite to eat in my little local watering hole here in Annapolis, Maryland. Came back home, chilled on a Sunday, working, grinding on during the week. You know, the normal rock and roll, man. Training, try to get back into this NFL thing and staying busy. What are you up to?
I love it. No, I've been moving into a new place. Very exciting. I had some meetings with the old tax man, my accountant. That's never fun.
Never.
It's never fun meeting your accountant, right?
I kind of like meeting them though, because at least I know like I'm organized. If I'm organized going into it, I'm excited. But if I'm a mess and I'm looking for this and that, I'm stressed and I'm sweating.
Well, that was me. I'm not organized. I'm the least organized person you'll ever know in your life.
Me too.
That's the way I operate. It kind of works. It's like the ADHD thing where I wait till last second for everything and nothing is in a filing cabinet, or I don't even know how to use a computer, like how to use all the filing stuff on the computer. But there's a method to the madness and it always comes together. But you know, when you meet the tax man, it means you owe money. And when you owe money, it's never fun because I'd rather spend that money on, some nice furniture or some new clothes or some sick sneakers.
Not a new watch, because shout out to Larry Flowers Jewelry. We don't need a new watch. Got plenty of those.
Well, I'm fortunate. I got about 350 watches here in stock. So every time I leave my office and I want to wear something dope, I just pick what the lucky watch of the week, and that's what I'm rocking.
Have you ever walked out with a watch, got it nicked up or something, and then you have to buy it?
Well, what do you mean buy it? They're my watches, but have I ever nicked my own watches?
Yeah. So you essentially, I guess I take it this way. There are your own watches, but I'm saying like maybe one that you wanted to return and just wear for an event. And then you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, no. So like I'll give you an example. So last year I bought a platinum Daytona for my inventory, and I'm like sick. I'm gonna wear it out. Like there was a cool party that we were all going to in California. I was in Newport Beach, and one thing led to another and turned into a really good time. And I woke up the next day and I looked at the watch and there was a big ding right on the corner of the bezel. Which is not perfect because the bezels of the Daytonas is the one thing that you don't want to fuck up. But I did, and it was it stung. It stung the wallet.
Okay. Hey, happens to the best of us. I mean, listen, rock and roll, rip it up. Yeah,
it's a write-off.
Yeah.
I had to reach in my pocket, fix the watch, but guess what? It's a write-off. And you know what? In the words of Jerry Seinfeld, you don't even know what a write-off is.
All-time show. All-time show.
Larry,
lots to talk about, man. There's so much going on in the sports world. You got Derby, right? The spring means golf. We have boxing to talk about. We have NBA playoffs, believe it or not, we're going to talk about. Let's start there. This Knicks series. And for me, as a Philadelphia sports fan and a Villanova sports fan, because my two boys, Ryan Arcidiacono and Colin Gillespie, were back-to-back point guards at Villanova over that
one
10
went to Wood, right?
Colin Gillespie went to Wood. Ryan Arcidiacono and I played football together growing up.
Yes.
And he went to Chamonix. Great football player, still one of the best I ever played with. Colin Gillespie was a great football player. Stopped playing because of basketball. He was our water boy at Archbishop Wood when I was a senior. State title, like shooting water on him, and he'd throw it at me. And whatever. Long story short, both of them played back-to-back at Nova. Unbelievable stories. And I became, a Nova fan because of them. But this Knicks team is littered with them. I mean, I'm going to propose a question before we get to this flopping situation. Hart, Brunson, DiVincenzo, and several other really good Villanova players in the NBA. The Sixers never, ever considered one of them. When I was at Temple, there was like a black eye with Temple football players because they took a player early in the second round that went to Temple, the Eagles. and it didn't work out. And they didn't take a player for the next decade from Temple in the draft, maybe longer. And that was our best run ever. I think we had about 25 guys consistently playing in the NFL at one point in time, and pretty good players. Hassan Reddick was like the only one ever to come back and sign.
Yeah, what's the other Villanova guy that's in the NBA?
He's the guy who gets Suns drafted.
Oh, what's his name?
The shooter.
Oh God, they were just talking about him on the radio. I was just on my way this morning driving. I was listening.
The Sixers could have drafted him. He went to Brooklyn, I believe.
Yes, exactly. Flowers.
Well, dead air is not good.
No, it's not. But
my point is that my point to the story was, look at that Knicks team, the way they play, the way all three of them, especially Brunson, have changed this whole damn thing. I mean, super, super impressive. Your thoughts on, this Knicks team and the deep run they made? Mikal Bridges.
Yes, exactly. Bridges, which is someone that I'd love to see in the Sixers uniform. But yeah, my thoughts on the Knicks team. It's crazy. If you really look at them on paper, they don't scare anybody. Shout out to Brunson. Jalen Brunson is wow. I mean, talk about a guy coming into his own. I never thought he really mounts up to be an elite type basketball player in the NBA, or even a great player, or even a really good player. I thought he'd just be pretty good, kind of like
he doesn't have any elite. He doesn't have any elite traits.
Nothing. You look at him; he doesn't look big. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like of Paul, right? He doesn't look, he doesn't look tough. He's not ripped. He's not long. He can't do anything great, but he does everything great. And it's great to see. But I mean, I think after last night, I think he's had 4 straight 40+ point games in the playoffs, which hasn't been done since Michael Jordan, which is unbelievable. Listen, he single-handedly won the series against the Sixers. The Sixers should have absolutely beaten that team on paper. I mean, there's no comparison, but I guess that's why you play the games. And he is just in the fucking zone. He's in the fucking zone. He was making shots. I mean, he was making shots that you would expect, LeBron James type players to make. He can't miss. He can't miss.
Pretty impressive. And he makes it look very simple. The story and the history of him and his dad, if you don't know, go look it up. Really cool stuff about his dad coaching him, and he's rolling eyes, and he's like, "You want this? You told me you wanted this. Okay, then you got to go earn it." Super impressive. And that's like kind of that Villanova culture in those teams. Like, I love seeing those guys be the same type of players in the NBA that they are. And I enjoy watching the Knicks because of it. I'll be honest, whether they played at Nova or not, the way they move the ball, the way the offense flows, the way he handles the ball, it's very old school. It's methodical. It's not this 6'8" point guard who can run and dunk on you. He's just finding a way to get it done. And he's not even as flashy as like a Kyrie Irving, right? Who's like super explosive and crazy off the dribble.
That's what I meant. Like he's not flashy at all, but man, he's just so fundamentally sound. He makes the right plays. He's clutch. He's poised. It's great to see. And honestly, as a Philly fan, it's hard to compliment teams, especially in New York. But watching the Knicks, even watching the Rangers, like that's high quality entertainment. They are both really, really good.
Yeah, like if you're going to be a Flyers fan, and I get really excited about them, I do. I'm very excited about the Flyers, but if you watch these teams in the playoff compared to them, you're like, no shot. Now, you would say this about the Flyers all season long, but they play great against all these teams,
Yeah, but I mean,
the effort they played there, but they were almost like the Knicks in a way, like boring, but they were good. And I'll tell you what, I mean, the Flyers weren't even boring. They were high flying this year. They just shit their leg down the end. I don't want to take it away from them, but we're neither here nor there. These teams are super talented in the playoffs, dude. Like in the NHL playoffs, NBA, great. The product's getting better. I will say it's getting better as it moves forward throughout the playoffs. They're letting them play a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you,
the garden. You need the garden, or it's not fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. I mean, in my humble opinion, I think the Knicks, they're pretty much going to come to an end. I mean, any good coach is going to say, okay, let's figure out like what's killing teams. Jalen Brunson, let's figure out how to, how to eliminate his game and how to, I mean, I'm not a basketball guy, but you would think that they're going to figure out this is the guy that's killing teams. Let's make sure that let's let the rest of the team. But DiVincenzo's a great player, great athlete. The only thing I didn't like about DiVincenzo recently was that flop, that disgusting flop. The problem with the NBA, I've said this for years, it's become so soft And I'm so sick and tired of the flops. It's like the NHL. You should get a foul for flopping. And then you don't have it anymore. It's painful. Like all the ticky-tack fouls and like the one call that they called a kickball that wasn't a kickball, but you can't challenge a kickball, but you could challenge this, you could challenge a foul, you could do this. It's like, and it slows the game down, which, you know what, at the end of the day, fine. You want to stretch out the last quarter of the game and make it an hour long so it's entertainment. I get that. But the ticky-tack fouls and the calls that can change a game in the NBA, which is one little call in the last 3 minutes, it kills the sport. And that's why I think a lot of people are just fed up with the game in so many aspects of what it's providing, especially in the last 5 minutes of the game. Like these ticky-tack fouls are killing the game. And I can't look at another flop. There's a video I saw on Instagram, and it's this little kid, these two kids, they can't be any older than 10 years old. And this kid it's on an inbound play, and this kid is defending this other kid, and this kid flops so bad, and it's so hard on the eyes when you see this video, and this kid just flops, and he does the full LeBron James, and he falls, and they call a foul, and the kid never even touched him. But my point is, you see that, and you're like, fuck, that's not the right way to play the game. But the more important thing is the effect of what the NBA and its product is, how it's passing over to the next generation and the youth and the game because kids never lie, right? You have these kids watching the NBA, and you see these flops, and all of a sudden they're imitating it because that's what young kids do. They imitate their, the people that they look up to. And if that's the next generation of basketball, they want to do all this flopping and all this nonsense. Like, it's going to water the sport down. It's just not good overall for competitive reasons. It's just bad for the game. And so the NBA needs to clip it, because because I took some time and I Googled young kids flopping or basketball and stuff like that. There's millions of videos out there, and these videos are like, they're almost troublesome. This flopping thing it's got me so going crazy that I need to put one of these in my mouth right now. I need a Zyn.
Shout out to Zyn, the non-official sponsor of Favorite Firm and Larry Fowler, is presented by Not For Long Media. Larry, lots to talk about. They're great. The NBA, of course, it's not our thing. Doesn't do it for me. The people that are into it, I get it. I understand it. But to me, the NBA, like when LeBron came into the league, that was my favorite era. From my perspective, Carmelo, those guys, they were still tough and physical. Still had some great characteristics, but still some high flying, shooting, dunking. That was the version that I remember the most and had the most fondest memories to. Let's move to the NHL. Lots to discuss.
Yes.
Tons, man. What a league. Talk about a league that's built on toughness and speed. Go ahead, Larry.
It's a man's game. You played a man's game. Hockey's a man's game. That's why we're friends.
I'll say that. The one thing I was sitting there with my aunt, Patty, my uncle Ken last night. We're sitting there and we're talking, we're watching a game, and her son was a high-achieving hockey player, my cousin Patrick, and from our area, spent a lot of time, Flyer Skate Zone, Division I offers, you name it. Big-time U.S.-born player, but just didn't make it through the ranks, right? So we're talking about NHL, and I always have a huge passion and love for the NHL. We always talk about it. And I said, the one thing I don't like about football that I love about hockey is the game polices itself. That's what the best thing the game has going for it. If you're a rookie and you do something stupid, you watch out because you disrespected somebody. The refs can't help you. If it's legal or they don't see it, they can't help you. The game polices itself in fights, things like that. Also, their fines aren't that much, which is what people don't really understand, the financial side of it. Their max fine from an NFLPA, I think it's $4,500 or $5,000. That's not a lot of money. The NFL, we get absolutely crushed. Those personal fouls, a horse collar, all that stuff, the fighting, the punching, that's like $25,000 plus per foul. Like, that's a lot of money. Everyone's like,
I know it's obviously you have to do that. I mean, the NFL in one play, you can really jam up someone's career.
Yeah, but I feel bad for the defensive
guys. Totally.
There's no real flags for the offensive guys, like unless you take your helmet off and do some stupid shit. But neither here nor there. Tons going on. The Avs are high flying. They win it in OT last night. Dallas, again, they're my team to win the Stanley Cup.
Let's go back in time just a little bit. I want to start from Saturday, Game 7, Bruins, Leafs, and then we'll kind of go through a little bit.
I love it.
What a series. What a series. Bruins go up 3-1. Toronto comes back, gives those people in Toronto a little bit of life and hope that maybe they finally get out of the first round and go on a little run here. You love to see it. You really love to see it. I'm not a Leafs guy. I'm not a Bruins guy either. So it was kind of a tough series to watch for me. But it was a hell of a series. It's a shame Austin Matthews clearly wasn't himself. He missed a couple games with the conky, and it's a shame. I mean, call me crazy, but I was talking to a buddy, and I said they almost should have maybe. You have to play him in Game 7, but he wasn't completely himself. And maybe if he's not playing, you have these other, you have the rest of the squad that are maybe stepping up a little bit more and playing just a little bit harder when he's not himself. That said, it was a 2-1 game. Bruins win Game 7. What an environment. Shout out Andy Mack. Mac Daddy was at the game and sending us videos. And that environment was absolutely electric. What a series that was.
Unreal.
I just like cheering against the Leafs. I like the meltdown. I have a lot of friends in Toronto, and I just love the meltdown and the back and forth that I have with some of my friends that are from there because they talk a lot of shit about the Birds, especially in the playoffs this year. And so I give it back to them when the Leafs lost. So it's a lot of fun. But the Bruins are a hell of a team. They're very balanced. There's almost no team in the NHL. I mean, every team in the playoffs is always good. But now it's on. Every team is really, really good.
I'll say this. I think Florida is better than Boston. More depth, more scoring, better defensively, better goalie. Maybe you draw a goaltending, right? So
I mean, that Swayman is playing as good as anyone in the NHL right now.
He'll steal a series. He can steal a series.
Yeah, no. That Florida-Boston series is going to be legit. I think Boston had a lot of momentum going into that Game 7 win. They had one day off and then right back at it against Florida. Florida's kind of been sitting on the couch relaxing a little bit. But it was a great game, but Boston took over, and I think they just had the momentum riding a little. Tonight, I think it's going to be a different story. I think if you're a betting man, I think the line's like 165 Florida. I think if you're a betting man, you have to just absolutely hammer Florida. They can't go down 0-2 at home. Florida is also so well balanced. They got a great goalkeeper. A great.
They're tough. They're battle tested.
They're battle tested.
Those guys
and they're on a mission.
They've played a lot of hockey, and not as much as Tampa, right? You see, it's kind of worn on them, and they've lost some studs over the years. Not just the lack of rest; it's also the fact that they've outpriced themselves because they've won so much, and people weren't winning. And some of those guys are on that Florida team. Some of those guys are with all these teams across the league. There's a lot. I mean, the series are fantastic, and they're staggering them right where you're watching the games at different times of the night. I love that stuff. What's the next series you want to dive into?
Yeah, and I want to say one thing about the Bruins. I got a couple buddies, Kevin Shattenkirk, Patty Maroon on that squad. So I kind of always root for, at this point in my life, I root for teams, of course, but I also root for guys and teams based on who's on those teams. And those are two class act guys. And Shattenkirk's just an all-time legend, just absolute beauty and funny as hell. So that's an interesting
winner, man. Every team he's on, they do well.
Patty Maroon?
Both.
Yeah, no, totally.
Both. I mean, those guys are, you can't, right? Analytics tell you one thing, and I'm sure there's stats against them and plus minus and all this stuff. But when Patty Maroon and Kevin Shattenkirk are on the ice, you feel them. You feel them. It may not be physical all the time, but it may be, like the other day, Maroon was going in the zone on the left-hand side and just kind of puck bounced off of him right in front of the net goal. And you're like, all right,
well, the thing about Patty Maroon is he's a big body. He's not a great skater, but he's got great hands for a big man, and he makes the right place. He's great on the end walls. He gets in front of the net, and he's a guy listen, there could be times in a playoff series where you may want to take him out and maybe plug in a little bit extra speed. That could be the case, but he's a guy that really he can shake things up. He's a big body. He's strong. He's a guy you need in the playoffs. The playoffs is a war of attrition in the NHL, and that's what makes it great. Let's stay in the East and talk about the Rangers-Canes series. So game 1, Rangers win 4-3. Carolina made a little bit of a comeback. But I want to talk about last night, because last night, that might have been the best game in the NHL playoffs that I've seen. Back and forth, nonstop, heavy hockey, hitting, just scoring, unbelievable action. If there are any casual hockey fans out there and they want to watch a really good series, this is one of them. The Rangers, first of all, Carolina is unbelievable as well. They've had a great season and they've got weapons everywhere. This is a very even matchup. For it to be 2-0 Rangers, Rangers winning 4-3 yesterday in OT, double overtime. What an unbelievable game. But let me tell you something. The Rangers are my kind of team. I'm not a New York guy. I've never, my girl's a Rangers fan, which is kind of hard for me. But they are a complete wagon of a team. They are balanced. They play heavy. Igor Shesterkin in net is elite. Their D are fantastic. They just play a heavy, good, solid NHL game. And if I have to put my money on a team coming out of the East, right now it's the Rangers.
Loaded lineup. Lavi comes over. And when Laviolette steps in, everybody talked about it. He can take a really good team, even a great team, to the next level. That's what he does best. His message wears thin after a little bit, which you saw in Philly, Capitals. Guy's been all over in the Metro. You hit the nail on the head. Quick's in net. He's not even going to see it, right? As the backup who signed a little extension this offseason, comes over from your LA Kings, who had an unbelievable Hall of Fame career. And I like the team. I do. I'm curious to see what's going to happen to Rod Brind'Amour. He's up for a contract. They have not signed an extension.
I don't understand what's going on over there with that. That's
well,
a little
Dundon,
head scratcher there.
Dundon's the owner there, and he bought the Alliance American Football League or whatever. And I played in that league. It was a minor league system. I played for the Birmingham Iron. We made great money, the best high paid money for minor league football you could ever buy. The sales pitch was you'll make practice squad money, $8,000 to $10,000 a week. And again, for over a 10-week season, and you're going to get playing time. You're going to get film, and you're not going to be stuffed on a practice squad, and we're going to pay you. So it was a spring league, and it had good roots. But the problem is a couple guys put it together, and it wasn't financially stable, and he bought the league to save it. And when he bought it, he realized, oh, shit, this won't happen. And he shut the league down out of nowhere. That's the guy who owns the Carolina Hurricanes. So they don't make big splash moves. They went out and got Gensel. That never happens, right? So their big move is, okay, we're going to sign Rod Brind'Amour because A, he can't get hurt, and B, he's a known commodity where we can pay him and there's no salary cap to him. But when it comes to players, Dundon, who runs the team and is the owner and has got his hand in a lot of the stuff down there, he doesn't like that. So we'll see what happens with Rod. You got to pay him. He is a high-paid coach. He's a top 5 coach in the NHL, and he will demand big money.
And he deserves it. And he deserves it. He's proven himself. He's already won a cup. He's one of the great coaches in the NHL.
Just hockey people.
There is nothing I would rather see than Rod Brind'Amour on a Philadelphia Flyers bench. Now I'm personally not quitting on Torts yet. But this is a show me year for Torts. I mean, if they don't get it together this year, then I think he's on the hot seat. And we'll see what happens. But unfortunately, if Rod Brind'Amour is going to be moving somewhere next year, obviously it's not going to be Philly. So we're going to miss the boat on that. But we just got to hope that Torts continues to get it together and kind of keep his cool and not say certain things to the media and keep things in house. But Rod Brind'Amour, hell of a coach. Their team is stacked. In that series, I say it's the old adage, right? You're not out of the series until you lose at home. So they got 2 home games coming up. They need to win them both. You don't want to go down 3-1 to the Rangers. Going down 3-1 to the Rangers and to think you're going to beat Igor Shesterkin 3 out of the next 6 games. 3 out of the next 4 games is, in my opinion, pretty much impossible. So Carolina is going to be playing for their lives, and I expect them to win both games at home. But what a series that is. That game last night, I can't stress this enough. I mean, back and forth, just heavy action, hard hitting. It's just both of these teams are Stanley Cup final caliber type teams, and it's a great series to watch.
What do you think about the Oilers and Canucks tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Pacific?
Game 1. I mean, listen, the Oilers, I've said it. I'm on record. The Oilers, their top two lines are absolutely elite. The best power play I've ever seen in my life. I'm not sold on the the bottom two lines. I think if you stay out of the box and you can contain McDavid and Draisaitl a little bit, I think you can beat them. That said, Vancouver's they've had a nice year. I don't see Vancouver beating Edmonton. Tonight is gonna be an interesting matchup. I want to see how Vancouver plays against them. But again, you have to stay out of the box. If you're the Vancouver Canucks, you cannot take any penalties because that power play, I mean, I think it's rocking at like 50% or something like that, which is just unheard of. And so I'm interested in seeing what happens tonight in game one.
Great points. Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens too. Rick Tocchet, former Flyer, again behind the bench for the Canucks, and the Oil man.
I got a chance to talk to Rick a little bit over the All-Star break, All-Star weekend in Toronto. Unbelievable guy. We talked a little Philly. He absolutely loves the area. He still comes down to Philly and spends time down there. He's got a lot of friends and family down there. He had nothing but praises and great things to say about Philly. He's an icon in the Philadelphia area, in the hockey community, no doubt. And I'm rooting for him for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to see him in Philly. I was pushing for that, but yeah, Torts, we'll see what happens. Listen, I'll be brief on the Oilers. Their clock is running out. They are up against it. They've had the ball bounce their way in net. They had the ball bounce their way in Corey Perry for little to no dollars. There's some things that have gone well.
He's a great addition. He's exactly the type of guy you want on a playoff roster.
For a minimum, right? Like they can't afford anything else, and they got an all-star at minimum, right? So really good hockey player. So we'll see what happens there. Like I said, you want to talk about the NHL challenges.
Real quick, let's get into Colorado Dallas because that's another series. That's a powerhouse.
We skipped that in the beginning. My apologies. Yes, Colorado Dallas. Listen, you want to talk about high flying? I'm going to tee you up here for your thoughts. Colorado leads 1-0. They beat him in overtime last night. A lot of overtime games here where we didn't really see as much early in the first round, at least till later on. Avs Stars. Avs go into Dallas. Whoop them up.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Speed.
Dallas, that's like losing 2 games in one to me. If you're the Dallas Stars, you're at home, you're up 3-0 on Colorado, who's a high-flying powerhouse type team. This matchup, I think most would agree that this is the matchup that every serious NHL fan is got their eyes on. Both of these teams are Stanley Cup caliber type teams. And Dallas is my pick coming out of the West. I had Vegas, unbelievable series, Dallas Vegas that went 7, and Dallas winning that series in overtime in Game 7, which is the most exciting. That's the most exciting thing in sports, in my opinion. Game 7 overtime. I mean, come on. But Dallas last night, they go up 3-0 against the Colorado Avalanche, and to give up that lead and to lose in overtime at home has got to absolutely kill. That's why I say that's like 2 losses in one. You can't give up a 3-0 lead in the playoffs against a team like Colorado. It just cannot happen. I'm very interested in seeing how Dallas responds. You got to think that Dallas is going to throw the kitchen sink at game 2. You cannot go down 2-0 to Colorado. That said, they went down 2-0 in the last series and against Winnipeg, and they rebounded and won 4 straight. But this Colorado team is not Winnipeg. Winnipeg was a good team, but this is not Winnipeg. This is Colorado Avalanche. McKinnon, Cale Makar, who many think if you're a GM and you're drafting a team, he's maybe your number 1 overall, maybe even over Connor McDavid. He's that dynamic. The things he can do, running your power play, right-handed shot, D-man, like the way he skates. He's a generational defenseman, and they are a wagon. But Dallas to me is like the New York Rangers of the West, right? They're so heavy, they're so deep. They got 4 lines. They got Ottinger's a great goalie. They got good D-men. This is their year. Dallas, they have to win game 2.
Have to. My pick being in the playoffs was Florida Dallas, and Dallas snuck one out. And I think Dallas is going to win the cup. That was my pick because they're just loaded. They have depth. They have goaltending. They're just kind of next up in the West, you know?
Yeah. And they got a couple guys that I've got a great relationship with. Jamie Benn, the captain, Tyler Seguin, both absolutely amazing human beings.
Ever heard of them?
Yeah, they're great guys. I've known them for a long time. I was in Dallas when I saw Jamie Benn win the scoring title on the last game of the season. He was out there for like a 4 or 5 minute shift. It was awesome to watch, and then he ends up getting an assist to get the scoring title. And it was an awesome thing to see. He's such a great leader. He's outplayed all expectations coming in as a rookie early in his career. You know, everyone thought he'd be a fine player, but he's turned into an elite player, an elite captain. He's big, he's strong, he fights, he can score, he could do everything. I love watching his game. And fuck, Seguin got robbed twice last night in OT. Oh my God, unbelievable saves. And then Colorado comes back the other way. Miles, what's his name? Miles,
Wood?
Unbelievable play.
Was it Miles Wood, right?
Yeah, Miles Wood, great play. I love his game. Love his game.
They have so many players that just hum. Like the team speed, when they get the boots underneath them, they're rolling. Like that's why people say, oh, you know, Cale McCarr, this, that. Like, I'll tell you what, him and Nathan McKinnon, the combination of the two, when we talk Flyers and bring it back to them, nobody looks like that on that team. I guess Tippett at times.
Those are guys.
They are horses.
Those are guys that you only hope that you can end up having on a roster. They're generational, and this series, this is the series in the West right now. Everybody's got their eyes on the series, and so do I.
Yeah, again, so much to talk about in the NHL. Great series. You got game one tonight. Oilers, Canucks, Bruins, Panthers, and then tomorrow night, Rangers, Hurricanes again. Tomorrow night, after that, 9:30, Avalanche, Stars. It just rolls on, man. Like
my lock of the night. I have to do it. If you're a gambling guy, you have to fire everything you have at the Florida Panthers. Must win at home. They cannot go down 0-2. Definitely keep your eye on that game.
Your stone cold lead pipe lock to quote the great Tony Bruno. I don't know if you know Tony Bruno. You're a Philly guy. You should know Tony.
Of course I know. Come on.
All right, listen. I love it. We got to talk about the roast, brother.
The roast.
The roast. Oh, listen, this thing, the Tom Brady roast, to me, that was some of the best TV I've ever watched in my entire life, period. First off, it was modern fun. It was a little raunchy. They crossed the line a little bit. They crossed the line with a lot of things, but that's comedy. And we're able to laugh and have a good time. I hope people stop clipping it and quoting it and trying to get people, quote unquote, canceled. I'm so sick of it. And there was a lot of things. There was some hate. There was, racist jokes. There was, some anti-Semitic stuff. You know what? It was all in good fun. Everyone had a blast. The characters in the crowd, the different people. Rarely in football, Larry, you see something like this. You don't see it in hockey either. Usually the spectacle is the guys playing, not the guys BSing off the field. And them BSing off the field was the highlight of the show. And the way you could see the guys chopping it up amongst each other, taking shots, the whole thing. Like, that was so cool and so well done.
The roast was unbelievable. Shout out Kevin Hart. Kevin and I graduated high school together, George Washington High School, class of 97. He's always been a class clown. I got a little jealousy of me. I'm not going to lie. I always looked at myself as a class clown. Kevin Hart has really he's made some kind of career of himself. I mean, he's a full-blown A-lister. He's the biggest comedian in the world. I ran into Kevin years back in California, in LA. I used to go to 24-Hour Fitness back then. This is going back like 20 years. And I walk in the gym to go play some hoops, and Kevin Hart's playing hoops. And I'm like, Kevin, what are you doing here? And we walk up, we start talking a little bit. He's like, yeah, I'm in LA. I'm doing my acting. I'm a comedian and I want to be an actor. And I'm like, all right, well, the same thing you say to anyone who's trying to make it in entertainment. You say, well, good luck. I wish you the best. And deep down, you're like, the odds of making it is, slim to none. Right. And then a couple years later, he's in Soul Plane. And then a couple years later, he's in another flick. And all of a sudden he's popping up in all these movies, and I'm like, holy shit, he's doing it. He's really doing it. And you fast forward, 20 years, he's the biggest comedian in the world. It's unbelievable. And then him hosting the roast last night, I mean, he is everywhere. I
did a
love
great
I
job
love
with
it. What's that?
Really did. He did a fantastic job with it, Larry. Like,
He's great.
he's
He
up there
really
laughing.
is. He's really is. His comedic timing is great. His comedy is not exactly my style. Like, I'm more of like an old school Richard Pryor type of guy. I like Bernie Mac. His comedy is not exact. I like a little bit of wittiness. Obviously the Seinfeld type humor. But hats off to Kevin Hart. I mean, he is the biggest comedian in the world. He's an A-list movie star. There's nothing he can't do anymore. He's on the top. He's at the top of the world right now. And I'm really happy to see him become so successful. Again, seeing him, he used to do like stand-up shows in high school. We used to have like, talent shows in high school, and he would go up and he would do his bits, and we'd all be sitting there and we're like, Kevin, like, all right, like, enough. Like, you want to be a comedian, but like, let's be honest here. But guess what? He showed everyone up. He did his thing. He's from what I understand, he's one of the hardest people in show business, hardest working show people in show business. And I love to see it. I got to talk about Nikki Glazer. How about her roast? She's a savage. She is a savage. She did not hold back. The roast, like you said, listen, it gave that roast gave an opportunity for the world to tell this woke cancel culture thing that Seinfeld had spoken about a couple weeks ago, saying it's killing comedy. That roast told all these wokesters and all these people that have so much shit to say about every single thing that's said and how it offends their feelings. Go fuck yourself. The world needs laughter, and we need to be able to make fun of each other, and we need to be able to expose all of our things, all of our little, characteristics and things about our culture and things about each other. We need to be able to laugh at each other. That's what makes the world go round. That's what unites people. We all have little idiosyncrasies about each other that we can make fun of, and to be able to laugh. I've always been a guy, my friends always know this. I love, like, if people are chirping me in my group, which we do all the time, we're always chirping back and forth. I love getting roasted. I love getting chirped. I can give it back as well as anyone out there. So if you got something to say, be ready. But the roast was, I mean, they did not hold back. I actually thought they went a little too far with like the personal stuff with like the with his wife or ex-wife and Giselle, and
well, it sounds like
the family stuff.
The sound of it was no kids were involved, which is good. Like, so my wife's like, they didn't make fun of him for kissing his kids on the lips, which to me doesn't bother me. What you do with your kids, obviously,
I don't get no fuck
whatever. But I'm surprised no one said anything about that. They probably had a rule like, the rule was no massage parlor jokes, because you could see Brady stood up and said no more of that shit.
Yeah.
And then B, no kids, which is good. Kids shouldn't be involved, right? That's
100%.
That's a no-go. Tony Hinchcliffe, dude, what a beast he is. Holy cow. I don't know about the guy. He went down the list, and you haven't seen all of it yet. Dude, he went down the list and roasted.
I have about an hour left to watch.
Okay. So have you seen Dana White go yet?
I saw Dana White. I loved it. I'm a huge Dana White guy. I'm a huge UFC guy. Dana White, he's taking the stance now. I mean, I think a little bit of it, but first of all, he's as honest as they get. He speaks his mind. He's in a position where he can speak his mind.
He can.
He's a great president for the UFC. He runs an incredible league, and he runs it well. He lets guys say whatever the hell they want to say, and I respect that. Obviously, during the roast, he brought up he made the liberal joke. But there's some truth to it, but there's some truth. Every great joke has truth to it, right? Yeah. But like, that's kind of him saying, hey, this is who I am. I know a lot of people don't like me for my stance on like my political
My name's Dana.
Yeah, my name's Dana. Like, how much, but it was great. And it just added that much more flavor to the roast. And I thought it was great. I was dying.
You see Belichick come out yet or no?
I saw Belichick. Belichick was great. The only thing that I thought Belichick would do just a little bit more of at the very end of his set was maybe give a little bit more love to Tom. I thought there'd be like a nice, like, man-to-man, emotional little
like, hey man, you really are the GOAT. Like you really are the GOAT, Tom.
Yeah, like you really are the GOAT. Like playing with you it was an honor and a privilege. We both, listen, you don't have to love the person that you work with, right? You just have to be able to figure out how to make it work. And they did. I was a little shocked that Belichick didn't comment or make statements a little bit about, Tom Brady's greatness and his accomplishments. He didn't really go into all that. But yeah, I mean, I was a little shocked, but Belichick was great. They've roasted Belichick a ton. The whole thing was, I mean, it was no holds bar, nonstop, like it's on.
Yeah. Who's next? Tiger Woods?
As far as getting roasted, would that be something or what?
Unreal.
I'd like to look up. I'd like to look up what the how many people tuned in to watch the roast. It's got to be an incredible number. That's like a landmark type of event for Netflix. Live 3-hour roast like that. I mean, wow.
Huge.
Yeah,
Live?
Tiger Woods would be unbelievable. Oh my God, that would be great.
Tiger? Are you kidding me?
Tiger would be, yeah.
He would get absolutely shredded.
You think he would do it? You think he would do it?
No.
You don't.
He's already had his rough patch. Brady didn't really have
the whole point of a roast. He can't. Tiger Woods can't go. You can't roast him and his brand go downwards. Tiger Woods is Tiger Woods.
He doesn't need it.
Of all time. He's an icon. I know he doesn't need it, but Tom Brady didn't need it either.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I feel like it's different. Brady's going to be like doing. I don't know. You're right. You're 100% right.
I'd love to see it. Great call. That would be a great. I bet Netflix will at least be reaching out to him because it makes total sense. If you want to talk about the GOATs and you want to roast the GOATs, he's in his prime years right now to get roasted.
Oh, there's so many jokes. All right, I digress. We got some boxing to talk about. What do you got, Larry? Fair but firm. That's a boxing.
Yeah, listen, we're a couple weeks past the Ryan Garcia Devin Haney fight. I wanted to talk about it last week, but I'm a big boxing guy. That fight ticks me off in so many ways. Devin Haney, I'm not a huge Devin Haney fan. Great fighter though. I saw Ryan Garcia fight Gervonta Davis in Vegas where he got knocked out with the kidney shot, the body shot. I am absolutely not a Ryan Garcia fan. I never have been. I think do I think he can fight? Yes. Do I think he's got a vicious left hook? Yes. Does he have fast hands? Yes. Is he a really good boxer? Yes. But his antics and his nonsense has driven me absolutely crazy. I'm so sick of I think he's so bad for the sport. Many will disagree with me. He's like the new age Jake Paul, but really, really pro version of like this new age character in the boxing world that's just so inauthentic, and it's just I'm so sick of his shit now. And now all this comes out with him failing his drug test. But let me tell you something. In boxing, the most disrespectful thing you can do as a fighter is to miss weight. And he missed weight by 3 pounds. I mean, if you watch the fight, any man with common sense can look at the fight before, when they meet at the center of the ring. Remember, folks, I'm fair but firm. When they do, they bring the fighters together, and you could just tell. I mean, he was carrying at least 15 pounds more than Haney, and that's really, really dangerous in the sport of boxing. The whole point of divisions is that you're within a weight class and weight limits, so that it's an even playing field. And it certainly was not. He looked significantly bigger. In my opinion, he was probably anywhere between at least 10 and 15 pounds heavier. I mean, he was just a big man. And honestly, it's just completely disrespectful. It's dangerous to Haney to fight a man that much bigger. And if he really wants to run his mouth and be this much of a showman and talk all this shit, then move up to 147 and fight in the weight class where you belong, because you don't belong at 140. It was just really disappointing to see. And now you see him on these podcasts and he acts like a complete fucking clown. I'm so sick of Ryan Garcia. I hate his shtick. I think he's bad for the sport, and I really hope that he ends up fighting. At least if he wants to give Gervonta Davis another go, even though Gervonta Davis is a legit 140. But if he wants to go up and wait and fight, some of the bigger guys where he belongs, I'm telling you, he's going to have his lunch fed to him. I think he's a good fighter, but I think, again, you can't fight guys and be 10, 15 pounds heavier than them in the ring. That's just ludicrous to me.
Anything else boxing wise, before we move on to your favorite?
Yeah, one more thing. This weekend, big fight for you boxing fans out there. Big fight. A fighter who I still think is top 3 best pound for pound fighters in the world. I think he was robbed in the Devin Haney fight. Lomachenko. He is still as supreme and elite as it gets. Vasily Lomachenko is just an absolute complete fighter. He's fighting George Kambosos Jr. Now, if you guys don't know who George Kambosos Jr. is, he lost twice to John Haney as well. Both Devin Haney dominated the fight in a sense, used his jab, controlled the fight. But George Kambosos Jr. is an unbelievable fighter. His style kind of actually complements Lomachenko's a little bit more. I think it's going to be a great fight. I see Lomachenko winning. I see Loma winning in a decision, but it's a great fight on pay-per-view. And if any boxing fans out there, they already know about this fight coming up. But if you're not a diehard boxing fan and you want to see a great fight, tune in. Lomachenko, Kambosos Jr. It's going to be a great fight.
All right, Larry, 30 years ago, what happened?
30 years ago, what happened? I know where you're going with this. Now, everyone that knows Larry Flowers knows one thing. I am a diehard hip-hop head, but real hip-hop, real rap. Not this new age mumbo jumbo fucking morphine rap shit junk.
If you will.
There's some rappers out there right now that are legit, no question.
Oh.
Kendrick Lamar is the real deal. Kendrick Lamar is absolutely the real deal. Cole is the real deal. I'm not a big Drake guy. I liked Drake in the beginning, but I think Drake, listen, I can't take anything away from the man. He's A-list entertainer, rapper. But I also think there's a little bit of acting in his shtick in the rap game. And I think he's being called out big time by Kendrick Lamar right now. This beef going on right now, if you're following it, is absolutely brutal. It's real. There were beefs back in the day, like Jay-Z Nas beef was legit. They went at each other. But it was one beef track for each, and that was that. These guys are coming out with multiple tracks nonstop, and they are going for the jugular. Is it entertaining? Yes. Do I love it? No. I think it's okay to do a diss track and speak your mind and go at each other, but it clearly is very, very personal. And I think Kendrick Lamar is winning the bout big time. But let's go back to your original point. 30 years ago, what happened? 30 years ago, what happened was this: the greatest rap album in the history of hip hop / rap of all time, Nas, Illmatic, the greatest rap album in history. It's just, there's not a bad track on there. The rapping is absolutely elite. It's pure hip hop at its core. It's just, I mean, I could rehearse every single word on every single track on that album. And it's got my favorite rap song of all time, Halftime. Halftime is just the most pure rap song of all time. For you young heads out there listening, if you want to listen to real rap, real hip hop, go start with Halftime and memorize it. It is absolutely flawless. But yeah, 30 years ago, Illmatic, Nas, greatest album of all time, hip hop rap album of all time.
There it is. You heard it first from Larry Flowers. We talked a little bit of everything today. NBA. We talked the roast. We talked NHL. We talked rap albums. We talked boxing. Favorite firm with Larry Flowers. Is that it, Flair?
I think that's it for the week. It's always great chopping it up with you. And like I said last week, doing these podcasts is, I wanted to speak on this again one more time because it's given me a new, I've got new insight on doing these podcasts with you. They allow me to get things off my chest. It's great talking to you. And for anyone out there listening that kind of needs a little motivation to kind of pick themselves up a little bit, it's good to talk to people. Texting is one thing, social media, blah, blah, blah. But when you talk to people, when I talk to you, and we end shows, I kind of take a few minutes and I breathe. I pop in a Zen. I have a little bit of water, and I think to myself, man, that was great. I get a lot off my chest, and I love it. And I'm grateful to you, and I'm grateful to all the listeners.
Amen to that. Favorite Firm with Larry Flowers. We're out.
Until next week. Later.